tagging on to what Senator Johnson was saying, I think it's important to note with the lowest learner scandals and targeting that took place at the IRS, you're very familiar with that because you were brought in to help clean that up. And when there's the perception that people are being targeted and there is anecdotal evidence and that information makes it to us, it does mean that we need to question you about this. And you know what a debacle that was during Ms. Lerner's time. I want to return to where I was with you in the first hearing. And we talked about the Sitka and the $400,000 limit, how you were going to be able to put that in place and not have it affect people that have tip income that are actually making less than $400,000 a year. And as we discussed, I don't think you were able to give me an example of someone you knew or any profession you knew that would make $400,000 a year that was working for tips. So if the IRS enforcement focus is on taxpayers that are making $400,000, then how do you justify this Sitka program, and how are you going to handle this so that it does not become a mandate on employers?
Yeah, I appreciate the question. And again, I think it's absolutely the case, and I want to reaffirm that those individuals that are making less than $400,000 will see no new wave of audits or no increase in the audit rate, as I've described earlier in this hearing. On the question of—
But you will be increasing their taxes.
Well, this is a question that I think we need to do better outreach with the associations, restaurants, tipped workers, to make sure that we are getting better aligned. This
is your goal to make the program mandatory? Right now it's voluntary. Are you trying to make this mandatory?
I have no intention.
No intention. Okay, let me move on. You talked earlier about the historical rate of audits, but previously you had said, you and Yellen had each said that you were not going to raise taxes. The president has said no one making under $400,000 a year is going to see their taxes raised. So now that has changed to no more than historical levels. So if you will give us in writing how you're couching that. Is it 5-year levels? Is it 10-year levels? Is it going back to 2018 and setting it there? Was that a high mark? Was it a low mark? I think there needs to be a little bit more clarity on that. And I would also like to hear from you, because this is causing great confusion. How do you calculate the $400,000? How are you, is it based on adjusted gross? Is it based on net? How are you arriving at this number? And the reason I ask this, Commissioner, is because Tennessee is a very entrepreneurial state. And as you know, we have a lot of people in the music industry. We have a lot of people that do tours, that work with these tours. They're self-employed. They're independent contractors. And while they may have a higher gross, their net is very low. So it's important to have definition around what do you mean, what is $400,000 gross, adjusted gross, net. Where are you pegging that?
Yep. Okay. So on that question, we're going to look at total positive income as our metric. So if the return comes in and the total positive income on the return is under $400,000, then we will know that it's in a segment of population that would receive no.
Does that increase their audit rate?
No, that's the point. There would be no increased likelihood of an audit if they have less than $400,000 in total positive income.
Okay. Let's go back to the issue we previously discussed about teleworking. Teleworking, and I know that Senator Thune talked a little bit about the phones not being answered, which is something that we hear quite a bit. You've got a heavy lift to go. And I would love to know what percentage of your employees are currently in the office working and how many are teleworking, and are you pulling that VPN data and auditing that? That's what you ought to be auditing, to see if they're actually conducting business, logged in, working, or if they're asleep on the job.
Senator, let me offer you this. First of all, I want to clarify, all employees are working. In my first few weeks at the IRS, I focused my questions as follows. Are we answering the calls? And we answered 87%. Are we in our taxpayer assistance centers and our walk-in centers, keeping the line short, meeting all of our appointments? And we are. Are we making progress on processing the paper backlog? We are. Are we defending cyber attacks? And we defend 1 billion cyber attacks successfully a year. I understand the question. I think also OMB just issued guidance last week on telework, so I'm going to now turn to that and figure out how to make sure that the IRS is aligned with the rest of the government. But I would say that the success we've had with the filing season was the most important metric for me to start with before I got into the details of where someone might be working.